This is my great-grandmother, Romualda Alvarez Gonzalez. She was born in 1887 in Abreus, Cienfuegos, Cuba. Unfortunately, I don't have the names of her parents. According to my father, she was from a long-established family on the island. So many loved ones have passed on at this point that some family histories have been lost. And the details of her parents, my second great-grandparents, are one of my genealogy brick walls. Fortunately, I was able to visit her on weekends in the late 70s into the 80s. She died in 83, and I was young at the time, but I remember her well. And apart from many family photos, my father had the foresight to film back then. Exiled from Cuba, Romualda lived in the Little Havana section of Miami with her daughter Cuca and her husband Gabriel Tapanes Rodriguez. Cuca's formal name was Evangelina Lliraldi Alvarez, and she had Italian ancestry through her father, Felix, Romualda's husband. Gabriel's family went back hundreds of years on the island, and a direct ancestor of Italians as well, though they settled back in the 1600s. On the weekends, my parents and I would drive over from Sweetwater to visit them in Little Havana. My great-grandmother didn't speak much that I remember, but each time before us leaving, she'd signal for me to come over, and she'd hand me pennies. And my dad would say, "You've been given money, put it in your pocket and save it." Back then I had little idea over money, of course, but the memory has lasted me all my life. Apart from family visits, I'd sometimes also stay at Cuca's house while my parents ran errands. Growing up, the family always passed down stories, and apart from filming, my father also wrote down some family histories which have been valuable for me. In casual conversation, I showed interest in conserving family photos and history, and in his later years, he wrote down various mini biographies which he saved onto his computer, which I'll share. Romualda was born the 7th of February, 1887, in Abreus, Cienfuegos, Cuba. As mentioned, I don't know her parents' names, only that my father mentioned that they were from a long-standing family on the island. She had 5 siblings that we're aware of: Andres, Santiago, Saturina, Maria Margarita, and Cristino Alvarez Gonzalez. I know that Cristino was married to Genoveva Herrera. And in this photo, it's Romualda's sister, Maria Margarita, and her daughter, Rosa Maria Ramos Alvarez. Interestingly, Margarita's daughter, Rosa Maria, who happened to be my first cousin twice removed, was married to Paco Garcia Mazas. And Paco's sister, Carmen, was married to Jesus Restituto Salmón Fernández, who was born in Spain and my first cousin 3 times removed. He was the son of Pedro Salmón Escajedo, brother to my second great-grandmother, Balbina Salmón Escajedo. This is me standing next to Restituto and Carmen here in Sweetwater back in the 70s, and my mom took the photo. Romualda married Felix Lliraldi Hernandez sometime in the first decade of the turn of the century, in the early 1900s. My great-grandfather Felix was the son of an Italian immigrant and a Cuban mother. His father was Domingo Lliraldi Focha, and his mother was Facunda Hernandez Mendez. Romualda gave birth to her first child, Luis Lliraldi Alvarez, the 25th of August, 1910, and she was 23 years old at the time. Their next daughter was my grandmother Nena. Her full name was Ramona Facunda Lliraldi Alvarez, and she was born the 3rd of July, 1911, in Aguada de Pasajeros. Next was Cuca Evangelina Lliraldi Alvarez, born the 26th of April, 1917, in Ciego de Ávila. And their last son was Ramón Lliraldi Alvarez, born the 31st of August, 1918, in Aguada de Pasajeros. Romualda's husband, Felix Lliraldi, died young, leaving her to take care of her 4 children alone. There's a mystery surrounding his death. First of all, my grandmother always had his picture on the wall, and at times she'd tell me to never drink what anyone offers you, in context from a stranger. She told me that someone had given him something to drink and that drove him to do what he did. That's as far as she explained when I was young. On a separate account, my father had simply said that he had shot himself without further explanation that I can recall. When the Great Depression came, which was worldwide, Romualda lost all she had as the banks defaulted. She was at risk of losing the ranch in Cocodrilo, and at a very young age, her youngest son, Ramon, took charge of the family business. He hired a lawyer, sued the bank, and saved the ranch, helping save the family through those difficult years. Romualda Alvarez Gonzalez died on the 22nd of July, 1983.